So I've been using this LG 45-inch ultra-wide gaming monitor for about a month now, and it's seriously been a huge level up to my PC gaming setup. This is the LG 45GR95QE, which is a bit of a mouthful. And in my last video, I did a full review talking about the setup, design, specs, and some gaming, but today I really want to dig further into the gaming experience. With an OLED panel and a 240Hz refresh rate, this is the world's first coming from LG. It also has a wild 800R curve, and if it sounds nuts, it's because it is, and when it comes to gaming, it really does pay off. We all know LG makes some incredible OLED TVs, so having a high refresh OLED option for your desk is definitely the future for gaming. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. On this channel, I cover gaming, tech, and a few things in between, so if you enjoy the video, be sure to like or subscribe, and if you don't, the next time you want a game, there's going to be a massive update. Alright, so as mentioned, my full review goes much deeper into specs, but here's the quick rundown. This monitor is a 45-inch ultra-wide OLED panel with a 21:9 aspect ratio. It's actually pretty massive, and frankly, this is what I love about it. It has an 800R curve with a resolution of 3440 by 1440. And today, an 800R curve is considered pretty aggressive, but there's a lot of reasons that make this feature useful, which I'll definitely touch on. And coming in at a peak 1000 nits brightness, we get HDR support and an insane 0.03 millisecond response time. Not 3 milliseconds, not 1 millisecond, 0.03 milliseconds. So off the bat, this is truly amazing for gaming. But hooked right up to this monitor is my MSI Trident X gaming PC from 2019, which in terms of specs isn't too crazy by today's standards. This has an RTX 2070, an i7-9700K, and 16GB of RAM. This is definitely due for an update, but it handles everything I need at 3440 by 1440 with high refresh rates. If you want the full spec rundown for this monitor, again, I will have my original video linked down below. What I really want to talk about first is the 800R curve, since you might be wondering why. Well, I can agree it is an aggressive curve, but having gamed on this for the last month, I wouldn't really want any less curve, especially on a 45-inch display. This monitor is meant for gaming, and it's ultra geared, pun intended, to focus on bettering the gaming experience. And when it comes to gaming, specifically gaming, when you have monitor widths greater than 34 inches, you really gotta start turning your neck non-stop to check any on-screen elements like mini-maps, a kill feed, or anything else super close to the edge of the display. And while turning your head for productivity or work is largely okay, it's less frequent or sporadic. When gaming, you wanna see everything in your peripheral vision, if not just a quick glance. The 800R curve does keep everything in view all the time, even on such a large display. For me, I play a chunk of competitive Overwatch on PC, and if this monitor didn't have an 800R curve, I wouldn't perform nearly as well. Simply put, the 800R curve makes this not just a viable option to use, but an actual good one. As well, despite being 45-inch curved ultra-wide, there's literally zero noticeable color differentiation from edge to edge, regardless of where you're sitting. But mentioning colors, I can easily say it's harder going back to a non-OLED display, especially after playing on this for about a month. Normally, I'd swap between my LG C2 OLED and another display for PC gaming, but once you've gotten used to how good OLED looks, it's so much harder to swap off. And the thing is, it's not so easy to really convey this through a YouTube video, but as an example, here's a quick side-by-side test I did a while back with my TCL R646, which is an LED, and my LG C2 OLED. In this shot, it's easy to see the difference when it comes to the inky blacks as well as the vibrant colors. For me, it's an incredible experience either way, especially when it comes to gaming. When you play certain games like Red Dead Redemption 2, which isn't even a recent title, it's actually insane to see the range between darks and lights, especially in scenes like this. And games like this or Cyberpunk really showcase the benefits of HDR as well, zero complaints since it absolutely looks amazing. But jumping right into gaming, I want to dabble with racing first. I don't play as much racing games as I used to, but honestly, throwing down some Forza Horizon, I've gotten a sort of diet racing sim setup. I know there's a whole lot more to a racing sim, and I'll probably get roasted for this setup or even saying it, but this is what I have, and it works well. For people who are trying to build out a real racing sim, this monitor is definitely an easy option, especially with the 800R curve. You have a wide field of view for checking mirrors and everything else you might need while racing. Eventually, I'm thinking about picking up a steering wheel. In the meanwhile though, I'm happy to use my PlayStation 5 controller. And I'm by no means a racing enthusiast, but for someone who hasn't really ever had this sort of experience, it's definitely an incredible place to start. For people who are racing enthusiasts, they already know the benefits of having a 21:9 monitor, so instead of seeing things like this, they're gonna see them like this. And I did put this monitor on a heavy duty monitor arm, which has been great for repositioning and sort of getting a more racing-like angle. All I need is that steering wheel and I'm good to go. But outside of racing, where I get the most of my value from is first-person shooters. And in my last video, I mentioned I would be grinding to masters in Overwatch on this monitor, and crazy enough, it actually happened. So I guess I'm not as trash as I originally thought, so yeah, thanks LG. But really, I can say without a doubt, I've done better on this display more so than any other I've used before, and trust me, I know a 16:9 aspect aspect ratio is the better choice for any FPS game, but this is what I have and it's been great for me. And again, going back to the 800R curve, in FPS games, every millisecond counts and a quick glance at the kill feed or my resources is easy. Again, I don't really have to turn my head or anything to see it all, and it's just nicer to have a larger OLED display like this without having a TV. And I can say without that 800R curve, it would be totally unplayable on a screen that's this wide. From a competitive standpoint as well, having a 240Hz refresh rate and 0.03 milliseconds response time is absolutely insane, and I'm certain this is a part of the reason I was able to actually rank up competitively. And sometimes I like to just tone it down and play something like Red Dead Redemption 2. It's crazy how good older games like this or even newer titles like Cyberpunk look even at 3440 by 1440p resolution. And it's really nice to play games like this, especially at a 21:9 aspect ratio. In my last video, I got a lot of comments asking about my setup and system specs, and again, it's just my RTX 2070 and an i7. It's not top spec by any means, so this display is doing a lot of heavy lifting. And I'm super stoked for Hogwarts Legacy, which is out next week, and I'm tempted to actually get it on PC versus console since I've been really enjoying open world games, especially with the curved display. And I definitely got to touch on the burn-in since I've had a lot of questions about this on the last video too, and even 1 month later there's absolutely zero signs of burn-in. Of course, it's going to be more of a worry being on a PC compared to a TV, especially with the static elements that you have on your desktop, but this monitor really does have a lot of preventative care options which I imagine should work in the long run. They work well, I imagine, not that I would see burn-in by now, but the features are completely uninvasive. If the display doesn't track any movement for a while too, it will shut off by itself, which is great especially if you're stepping away for a while. And if left for longer periods of time, whenever I return to the display, it will usually say pixel cleaning has completed, which is a great feature whenever not in use. And if you don't want to leave it to clear automatically, you can always do it yourself in the menus, but again, I haven't really had to do this. Alright, so let me round this up 1 month later. How is it overall? Well, it's probably the best monitor I've used, and I've really used this for gaming. Not just random review testing, I've actually used it a ton for gaming. Between the low response time and the colors of OLED and the high 240Hz refresh rate, this is an absolute amazing option for different types of gamers. From racing to open world to first person shooters, this covers you well. And if you really can't get down with a 21:9 aspect ratio, the 27-inch version of this model still carries the OLED panel, response time, and refresh rate. For me, I'll be trying to find a way to get more out of my diet racing sim setup, but until then, this will definitely do. Anyways, I'll have this monitor and everything in my setup linked down below in the video description. Be sure to check out my original review again, which covers more specs and stuff outside of gaming, and thanks again for watching. Till next time.